My wife gave in to the boss's caresses, and I gave her a surprise she wasn't expecting. I never thought I'd be the type of person to share my life story on Reddit, but here I am. It's been a roller coaster of emotions, and I guess I need to get it off my chest, maybe for closure or just to hear from someone who's been through something similar. Either way, here it goes. My wife, Emma, and I had been married for 7 years. 7 long, beautiful, and challenging years. We'd had our ups and downs like any couple, but I always believed we were solid, that we were a team. She was the love of my life, my best friend, and my everything. We were both in our early 30s, working hard to build a future. I worked a demanding job, and she worked at a mid-sized company as an assistant to the CEO. About 6 months ago, I started noticing small changes. Emma would come home late from work more often, citing long meetings or work dinners that seemed to stretch later and later. She became more distant, distracted even when we were together. I asked her if everything was okay, and she always assured me it was just the pressures of work. I trusted her, or at least I tried to, but something just didn't sit right. One night, she came home smelling of a cologne that wasn't mine. When I mentioned it, she brushed it off, saying she'd been around her boss all day in meetings. The pit in my stomach grew, but I didn't want to be that guy, the paranoid husband who accuses his wife of cheating without proof. But the signs were becoming too obvious to ignore. Then came the night that changed everything. Emma had told me she was going out for another one of those work dinners. I was already suspicious, so I decided to surprise her by showing up at the restaurant she said she'd be at. It was a fancy place downtown, one I knew she liked. When I got there, I scanned the room but didn't see her. I asked the hostess if she had a reservation under her boss's name. She confirmed there was one, but they were seated in a private dining room. Heart pounding, I asked to be taken to their table. She hesitated, but I convinced her by saying I was Emma's husband and wanted to surprise her. Little did she know I was the one about to be surprised. When the hostess opened the door to the private room, my world shattered. There was Emma, my wife, sitting far too close to her boss. His hand was on her leg, and she wasn't pulling away. They were laughing, whispering, and from the looks of it, far more than coworkers sharing a meal. The moment they noticed me, Emma's face drained of color. She quickly moved away from him, but it was too late. I'd seen everything I needed to see. I didn't say anything. I just turned around and walked out. My heart felt like it had been ripped from my chest. How could she do this to me? How could she betray everything we had built together? I went home, and for the first time in our marriage, I didn't wait up for her. I didn't want to hear her excuses. I didn't want to hear anything. I slept on the couch that night, or at least I tried to. The next morning, she came home. I could see the guilt written all over her face. She tried to apologize, stumbling over her words, saying it wasn't what it looked like, that she had made a mistake, and she hadn't slept with him. She begged for forgiveness, tears streaming down her face, but her words felt hollow. I had seen enough. I decided that morning I wasn't going to play the role of the hurt, betrayed husband anymore. If she thought she could lie and cheat and expect me to just take it, she was in for a surprise. I told her I needed space, that I was going away for the weekend to clear my head. She nodded, still crying, saying she understood and that she hoped we could work it out. I packed a bag and left, but I didn't go to a hotel. I went to a lawyer. I spent the entire weekend drafting divorce papers. I couldn't let this betrayal eat me alive. I wouldn't let her manipulation and deceit continue to destroy me. I knew what I needed to do. End it. When I came back home Sunday night, she was sitting on the couch, waiting for me. She looked hopeful, like she thought we'd talk things through and I'd forgive her. But I didn't give her the chance. I handed her the papers. The look on her face was the real surprise. She didn't see it coming. She thought I'd be too weak, too in love to walk away. But I wasn't going to let her make a fool out of me any longer. She cried, begged, pleaded. She said she'd do anything to make it right. But for me, it was too late. Trust once shattered is almost impossible to rebuild. I told her I was done, that she could be with her boss if that's what she wanted, but she wasn't going to have me too. It's been a few months since that day, and while it's still hard, really hard, I'm finally starting to feel like myself again. I've been going to therapy, leaning on my friends, and slowly picking up the pieces of my life. Emma moved out, and from what I've heard, her relationship with her boss didn't last. Not that it matters to me anymore. The surprise she wasn't expecting, that I had enough strength to walk away from her betrayal, even when she thought I'd stay. I loved her, I really did. But sometimes love isn't enough to heal the wounds someone else inflicts. TLDR. My wife was getting too close to her boss, and after catching them in a compromising situation, I gave her the surprise of divorce papers. She didn't see it coming, but I wasn't going to stick around to be betrayed again.